Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the UKGameshows.com Bothers Bar poll of 2018. And once again, you have been voting in your droves to work out what have been the most impressive and unimpressive game shows of the past 12 months. I have with me three other people here to speak their brains on the state of game shows today. We have with us our usual returning officer, Nick Gates.
Good evening, everyone.
We have a question writer and all-round fun guy, Daniel Peake.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Hope you're all well tonight.
And you may have seen her this year on things such as Tenable and Impossible. Always a pleasure to speak to Northern Ireland quiz organizer and general quiz fan, Laura Conlon.
Hello, I'm new to this, and I hope I do a good job, everyone. Thank you very much.
Well, we shall ease you in gently. Once again, you've been sending us your voting forms, and Nick has been collating the results. It's been taking him quite a long time. That's because the voting forms were 3 feet long. I mean, if only we could think of if only we could think of some more convenient way to do it. But there's been a slight change in the way that the votes were calculated, which you may want to just quickly explain, Nick.
Yes, so this year we said no multiple votes. We want lots more different shows mentioned, basically. But it meant that you couldn't weigh the vote if you'd like to show particularly excitingly. But it does mean that there's rather more breadth to the top 10, I think. Also, we've got some new categories this evening. After by popular demand, we have a radio category and online category. So it's going to be interesting to see what you all think of those.
So we have got a lot to get through. So let's waste no more time and get straight into it with the Hall of Shame, which is the worst new show of the 2018 period for shows that have been broadcast, new shows in the UK region. This is the results from last year's vote, and our hit rate is basically 4 out of 5, bar the uncancelable, it seems, letterbox, because Mel Gedroich going, T, is there a T there? Let's see if there's T, is apparently appointment to view television. So
I think it must be an incredibly cheap show to make. I can only imagine.
Yep, either that or someone's got some very incriminating photos of the BBC commissioning editor. So there we go. So that's what it was last time. So what about this time? So we tend to go through the minor rankings a little bit quickly, but we could still chip in about those.
Just before we start, hello to everyone on YouTube chat. I have you up here. I'm reading you as you go on. So hello, Oliver Raven. Hello, James Allison. Hello, Chris Dixon. Hello, Simon. Hello, Lupine. Hello, Tragard. Hello, Oliver. So here are the 10 to 6 in the Hall of Shame. Number 10, The Button.
Ooh.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of surprised. I'm a little offended.
Hang on, what's anybody done against The Button?
I have it. I can find some. Let's see if I can find the thing here.
It should be pointed out, shows can appear on both the Hall of Shame and Hall of Fame lists.
It's true. There are people who. There are people. Actually, I didn't write no comments down that far at number 10. But there are people who thought it was a bit. Who didn't really get into the emotional side of it all. I thought it just made a bit sick, really.
It was a bit of a slow burner. I'll give it that. I mean, it wasn't until show 7 that I really clicked with it. But hey, anyway, okay, all right.
They're not happy on. I could say, and they're not happy on YouTube chat.
It's your fault.
You voted, yeah. Joint 8th. It's Beat the Internet with John Robbins and The Wave.
Fair enough.
I haven't had a chance to watch The Wave. I don't have W. but my instinct is it's quite a nice idea. It doesn't really work on television.
It's certainly having seen it filmed, it's certainly much scarier in person than it came across on TV. It's not something. All it is swimming to shore, but the waves are massive and it's a long way, and it's actually quite scary. But it just doesn't quite translate to TV through the TV.
Fair enough. Number 7 and number 6 is joint 6 actually. It's I Don't Like Mondays and the Generation Game.
Right.
I Don't Like Mondays. It tried to do something and didn't really pull it off. Well, I suppose that's a fault. Very only show that works really. It wasn't that funny. It wasn't an awful lot of game content there. I still understand it. It tried to be live and loud, and it certainly was, but it wasn't that entertaining really. Generation Game. Well, it just was unnecessary more than anything else, I think.
All right. So
Right.
into the top 5.
To the top 5. At number 5, Hardball.
Okay.
One of the comments, my favourite one, is it's called Hardball because the ball and it's hard to watch.
I mean, it had an idea. It ran with it. It was a little bit too repetitive.
Yeah,
That's
I think
it.
that was my thing. And I found questions a little bit not easy, but just I'd heard all the questions before.
Well, they had to come up with short questions that fitted the format.
True.
Interestingly, I saw a clip of something that suggested that there was at one point in the development different speeds of balls, depending on
I've seen that.
how many pounds you wanted to go for, which could have been interesting. Yeah. Anyway,
I think ultimately it was the set leaves you more impressive. I think. I mean, as it was just a ball rolling along a wall, and you think, well, at least it was if it was twice as big. At least there'd be some speed to the ball. The set game was exactly the same. It might at least be a little bit more interesting or exciting to watch.
Or a more interesting track for it to go round or something.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, so there you go. At number 4, Change Your Tune.
Only number 4.
Only number 4. But this was, and credit to the guy, I always say I keep the comments anonymous, but the guy who created it said it was rubbish. So there you go.
I mean, it's a nice idea, but I just think if you can't sing, then you can't sing. As I have proven at a couple of karaoke nights, it's not worth it.
But it's all about enthusiasm, you see. I did karaoke years ago. You have to be good as long as you're enthusiastic. Right, joint second.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, do you have more to say?
No, I'm just panicking because I have to do equal signs. Right.
Oh, it's very exciting. It's Chase for Case and for Fact's Sake.
Ooh.
Now, rubbish. No, I say right. Chase for Case was the germ of a good idea that didn't quite pull off. The end game I thought was pretty good. I don't think. So it feels like second place seems a bit high. I think for it. I didn't really watch for Fact's Sake, so I can't really comment.
That was the Brendan and Carroll vehicle.
That's right. Yeah.
Just hang on. I'm just getting rid of an errant apostrophe. Yeah.
Got my mistake.
So what was? I think I did vote for Fact's Sake, and I kind of quite liked the idea of it, but it just had a lot of too many ideas being thrown at it. I just sort of did quite like the idea of the audience being potentially panel members, and because they are sort of fairly men of the people type performers, they are one of the few people that can sort of mix members of the public with celebs and kind of get away with it, because it's a very, very tricky mix to do that usually. So that I kind of enjoyed, but then there was sort of really clunky sort of it's just very slow in terms of like there was like 4 or 5 facts per round that were just not getting used because somebody hadn't chosen it, for example. So it's like it seemed very wasteful. And yeah,
a lot of the comments didn't like its rather sneering tone as well, which is quite interesting.
It was a little bit up itself a little bit. Yeah. But also the music editing on it was really, really bolted together with a welding knife. It was really tinny, and I mean, it would give it. It was made by a really wasn't it a Hungry McBear production or something like that?
I think so.
It was like one of the larger production companies, and it was directed by a heritage director who's done a lot of programs in the past. So, yeah, there was just a couple of really annoying things about it that didn't quite hang together. So interesting to see if that one comes back. And chase the case. I think well, I know a little bit about that one. The format did change quite a few times during development, and that's what they ended up with. I really do think that the thing with the security guard not speaking was really misjudged. I have to say, sorry. I mean, if you hire a comedian to be funny, let them speak. It's not rocket science, I'm afraid. I didn't get that joke at all. I'm sorry.
I think ultimately the puzzle was too easy, but I liked the sort of the strategies available in the end game. So
really tough to join in halfway through and know all the same things that have gone before, though.
True.
Yes, I think they needed a couple graphical on the bottom of the screen showing what we knew or something like that, or even in the final round reviewing, just revealing what they have in each case. Because at that point in time, we're no longer trying to work out who's got what in each case. That's kind of been done. Now we're kind of who's going to get across the line and which case are they going to go for. So I think they could have possibly done that. I've got a bonus Chase the Case behind the scenes production fact for you. Day one, show one, we're filming, and the vault door breaks. So we had to do this. Oh, the lovely up and down vaulty door. No, it doesn't go down anymore. Never mind.
Oh, that'll explain what wasn't used after like the first intro, presumably. Oh, that's a shame. Right. So at number one, what do you think it is?
Yeah, exactly. Well, reality shows don't really tend to get much votes in this thing, so I don't think it would be The Circle. What could it be that was that reviled?
It didn't win. It wasn't a landslide, by the way. It was the top three were pretty close together. You have guests online. You've got Lupine One guessing Ready or Not. I'm going to tell you it's not Ready or Not, and frankly, that surprises me immensely. Somebody thought that an irritating man in a green suit running around and offering £10 for questions would be great Saturday entertainment. Who'd have thought? It wasn't.
I think I've got it.
What is it?
Is it a BBC show?
It's like through the keyhole. Yes, it's a BBC show.
Wedding Day Winners.
Oh yeah.
It's right. Yes, it's Wedding Day Winners. Who'd win? You could win the dream wedding of getting married in a large warehouse. Absolutely incredible.
So that was a weird show because, like, first of all, it wasn't really very clearly explained that no matter what happened, both people were going to get wed anyway.
Yes.
So that was kind of odd. Again, I don't know what's going on with sound editing this year, but like they made it sound like they'd shot it in Wembley Arena with about 5,000 people, when actually it was only 600 there. And again, I don't really understand that. I don't really understand why one of the games was completely ripped off from Red Alert, that pump up your posty game, which is like, if there's any game show to take an inspiration from, that isn't it? And it was just a very odd show because it got cancelled sort of halfway through its run, effectively. Then they were trying to sell it as a major new format at MIP, and everyone kind of knew it had already flopped. So it was a tough sell, to say the least.
The sound was the one thing that I noticed. may sound so like a massive empty studio. It's like that loads of people there, and you think, well, this isn't really much of a party, is it? I think, why would you want to get married there? I would say that the games before Decide Who Got Married were pretty good, even if they were pretty obviously it's knockout rip-offs. The one with climbing, getting the ring to the thing or whatever it was by building a wall. It's very clearly from old it's knockout, but it worked pretty well. Just everything else just wasn't that compelling, really.
Kind of the ingredients were kind of there, but
it was the Bob Monkhouse show, wasn't it? Bob's Your Uncle.
Bob's Your Uncle, that's much better.
Material is there to make a decent show. But as you say, it just never came together. For me, one of the weird things was I didn't care. And it was a show, because it was about the wedding, you kind of had to have, you had to care about it. You needed to know the personalities of the people. And so all the the splicing of all the family and friends segments, it just bogged it down instead of making it better, in my opinion.
Are you saying, Dan, that they should have played less games so you can learn the personalities of the contestants a bit?
I am saying the exact opposite.
And at that point, I think we'll leave it there. Okay, so as we often do, we have a viewer poll. So if you go to tinyurl.com/barpoll2018, there's about 7 or 8 questions there that you can let us know your opinion on about the state of game shows, and some little fun questions there. And towards the end of this broadcast, we will go through your answers and see what you think. So we'll remind you of this after the next category, but if you want to do it now,
I was propagate us on Twitter very quickly, just so people can just click a link. Just give you 2 seconds.
Okay, so it'll be on the bottom bar, but if you can type it, it's not that hard. tinyurl/barpoll2018, and we will flash that up after this next category, which is a new category, which is called the Radio 5. Now, we may not do this every year because there's not so many new shows that come up on the radio, but we wanted to have a poll to see what the state of game shows on the radio was, on which shows you enjoy the most. So take it away, Nick.
Okay, so 10 to 6. 10, it's not what you know. 9, Counterpoint. Joint 7th, Brain of Britain and Around Britain quiz. And 6th was Popmaster.
Okay, so some fairly big brands already gone then. Okay, yeah. So number 5.
So 5 is Fighting Talk.
I've never listened to this. I tend to watch game shows rather than listen to them on the radio. The ones that I do tend to listen to tend to be things like Brain of Britain and Round Britain Quiz. So I don't really know what this is.
It's a points punditry competition. Basically, Colin Murray asks questions and pundits rabbit on, and they get points if they're funny or any good. Basically, have you ever seen Around the Horn on ESPN?
No.
It's basically that.
Okay, so while Dan goes off and downloads about 15 years of history from that.
Back in a minute.
Number 4.
Number 4 is the News Quiz.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. That's still going.
Yeah, Miles Jupp's hosting these days, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
As you'll notice when you. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just trying to think that the only thing I remember about the News Quiz that when they were developing it was it Barry, the film review guy, Barry Norman.
Barry Norman.
Yes. Yeah, I think he was the first host of it, certainly at the pilot stage, and they were determined to call it "Keep Taking the Tabloids," and they eventually chickened out, and just someone just said, "Why don't you just call it the news quiz? Because it's like the most Ron Seal obvious title for it." But
Yeah.
I think at the end of the first show, his sign off was, "That's it from the news quiz. Keep taking the tabloids. Goodbye," because they couldn't bear to not do that joke.
Use it. Yeah.
But yes, the news quiz has been a honourable title for many a year now.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I was joined. Actually, sorry, I was joined third with "I'm sorry, I haven't a clue."
Yes, I've got a soft spot for I'm sorry I haven't a clue. I haven't listened to it as much since Humphrey Littleton passed away, but Jack D is still a great host, and it's been an inspiration for many a pun of mine over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good thing.
yeah, if you say so. I do. I mean, I think I do recognise a new script writer in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, which I think was a good thing to help refresh things. I do think I have started to slightly hear the same combination of, like, I don't know, the same combination of like lyric and music songs, or the same sort of policeman's ball type things at the end a few times now. I think it is slightly in danger of repeating itself a little bit too often, and I know that they're sort of slightly rotating the guests a bit more aggressively now. The sort of usual 3 regulars are not always there anymore. I just wish that they maybe come up with some new games, or slightly new jokes. I do wish that, like, when Humphrey Littleton passed on, they dropped things like the Lionel Blair joke and things like that, because, like, gosh, we know we just about get the reference because we're game show fans, but I'm not sure that any younger people do. Then again, I think the average age of a Radio 4 listener is something like 65, 70. So
Yes,
I guess it's not a huge problem immediately, but yeah, I hope it will ring the changes sooner rather than later, because I think it is slightly in danger of becoming a little bit old hat. Right. Anything else?
Yeah, number 2.
Okay.
The Unbelievable Truth.
Aha, yes.
I don't know how to spell unbelievable.
Right.
Is that right?
I think so. Looks right to me.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, looks okay. Okay, good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a format. It's a format that's bedded in nicely, and there are just some occasionally just tour de force stories that you sort of think, hang on, it can't be possible that someone's actually buried any facts in this whatsoever, because it just feels like it's complete gibberish, or they've written it like it's a fairy story or something like that, and you just sort of think, well, hang on, this is absolute gibberish. There's no facts in here whatsoever, and I love those moments. They've found a sort of a good balance between sort of kind of sideways off the mic gossip and trivia. But it does sometimes mean that anything that they say that doesn't get a laugh must be one of the facts, just because of the way they kind of edit it. But nevertheless, it's still a very fun show, and there's some very good players of it. All right. So, what is number 1?
Number 1 is Just a Minute. The venerable Just a Minute.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I do find that surprising. But wow.
I think after 50 odd years on air, it probably was waiting for the Bothers Bar mention.
Agreed.
Yeah, well, it's 1968, so yeah, it is just over 50 years old, isn't it?
It's such a simple format, and it's evolved throughout the years. First of all, there was the Kenneth William era, I guess, then we moved into the sort of the middle years with I hesitate to say Paul Merton era because he still does a lot of it, but now there's they've done the same as I'm sorry I'm declared. They have more variety in their guests, and I think that's only a good thing. It's such a simple format. I must admit I haven't listened to it for the past 3 or 4 years, but yeah, I love it whenever I listen to it.
Excellent. Well, congratulations to Just a Minute, your favourite radio game show. So just a quick reminder, we'll be going through the results in about 20 minutes from now. So if you haven't had a chance to do so, go to tinyurl.com/barpoll2018. We use the link on the Bothers Bar Twitter feed and click on there. And you were taken to a Google form. We've had 35 responses so far. So if you want to add to that stack, then you've got a little bit of time still left to do so. Okay, so we're going back to fresh territory now. Sorry, to old territory, I should say. Familiar territory with one of our usual categories, the Hall of Fame, where we get to talk about the things that we loved about game shows of 2018. These are our picks from the previous year, and our score again out of those is 4 out of 5, with only Armchair Detectives not coming back, but that's largely due to cost, even though it won a BAFTA. You know, not that I'm bragging or anything.
Didn't two of you work on Armchair Detectives?
I may have done. As may have done. Yeah, so 5 Gold Rings is coming back for 2 more series. Crystal Maze is still going, apparently. House of Games has got a double run as well, I think, and Impossible seems to be going strong with its civilian and celebrity versions. So that's what happened last time. Let's go through the minor placings for this year.
Okay, so joint 9th, Britain's Brightest Family and Hardball.
Okay.
Joint 7th, Take the Tower and the 100k Drop.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think for the fact it was on ITV4, Take the Tower getting 7th is pretty good going.
I think so. Number 6, The Time It Takes.
Oh, okay.
I'm slightly surprised that that's not in the top 5, I must say. I thought it was quite a strong little format, that. Fun idea of the time being the timer. I found it a little difficult to concentrate on both the questions and the time at the same time. That kind of, it stretched me a little. But I must say, the question style floored me at the start. I hated it. And then after 2 rounds, I went, okay. I quite like this mental whiplash of here's quite a difficult question, and then cheese or toast, which is made from bread, or the nice wordplay questions that they got. They had a really nice question style, but it did take a couple of rounds for me to get into it.
I think it suffers from most light entertainment does these days, and that it wasn't a must-watch, and therefore no one watched it. It was a good show for what it was, but I couldn't really see anyone deliberately taking time out, as it were, to tune in for it.
I definitely think as well that a lot of people have been saying for a long time, oh, Drew Lysett needs to do his own thing. And then it came around at a time, like it was on quite early evening or so. So I think a lot of people would have expected, Joe Lysett, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, maybe, to get that kind of, I don't know, raunchier, more Joe-esque vibe. But I think he did well there, all the same. So maybe he's
a bit of a waspish performer, and I can see that slot may not have been an ideal fit. I do believe that Dave almost commissioned that, and I think they regretted not doing so. So maybe if it was on Dave, it might have got a later slot. Who knows? All right.
Joe Lysett's got a British Sewing Bee coming up, isn't he? So he's still doing stuff.
He can let the F. He can let the Fs fly on that, certainly.
He's got it all sewn up, I'm sure.
Boom.
Right. Number 5.
Number 5. It's The Circle.
Yay! I'm a big Circle fan. I'm an advocate for The Circle.
even though you wrote a tweet saying that basically it was broken and here's how to fix it.
I would say that the tweet that me and Alex did was an amplification of the best parts of the circle of here's how you really spam it. But we'll see how that goes in series 2. But definitely, like, the circle was a show that definitely took me by surprise because I'd seen the trailers and I was like, okay, this feels like zeitgeist from maybe 10 years ago of like, oh, social media, you can be who you want. But they really cracked it, and that was probably helped by having that Big Brother-esque, like, a show every night other than maybe Saturdays. So they were able to retool it with the influence of Twitter, of following particular stories and having those like in jokes with Alex and Kate, the player who's catfishing everyone else in the circle. Yeah, I'm very excited by what the circle's going to do next as well, and nice to see it was picked up by Netflix.
Yeah, for 3 different versions, which must have thrilled Channel 4.
It's interesting because for all the buzz it was getting, its ratings are not actually that great. It's
Well,
well under 1 million most nights.
Yeah, they made some various plays about it was doing well in the younger demographic, and obviously Netflix sees something in it. So there's only, I mean, cynics could say, well, it's just MSN Messenger, the game show. There was a rumor, which you can take or leave as you see fit, that the eventual winner, i.e. Kate, was due to be eliminated by the vote on the very first vote. And then when the producers didn't like the idea of that, apparently they went in and asked everybody to kindly change their minds, which they did. And he/she eventually ended up winning. So I don't know to what extent
that's my biggest criticism of the format, that none of the big things were signposted in advance.
Yeah.
They felt slightly fixed. So that's hopefully something that they will fix, pun intended, in series 2. Things will just be better signposted, at least for us viewers, to say, hey, the next vote or the vote after this one, it's going to be this format or whatever.
Again, with that, the threat of Alex/Kate being evicted quite early, or sorry, being blocked quite early. Again, when that became like in the overarching like plot, quote unquote, whenever that became a risk, there was conveniently a retooling of, oh, there's only going to be one super influencer or whatever it was, that meant that they bypassed it anyway. But yeah, like going into a show as a contestant or as an audience and not knowing what the end game, okay, it's a popularity contest, but like, is that literally what the mechanic is going to be to decide who wins the money? That was a wee bit ropey, but I'm sure they will have figured out what's worked for series 2. You would hope.
One thing
it's interesting. There's a. Go on. Sorry.
I was going to say one thing I think it did really, really well, which is, you know, in Big Brother or any reality TV show, there's usually a diary cam element where they go to a diary room or bush tucker room or whatever, and they do a piece to camera to say how they're feeling. This didn't need it. It had a couple of them occasionally, but this, they would say, oh, message Alex, send, and then they would entirely naturally go, yeah, but I don't believe anything I'm saying. And they would say all these internal thoughts, which would normally be a diary cam, just into the world. And it was just wonderful to see their internal thoughts just said.
Mm-hmm.
I was just about to say, the YouTube chat, people worried about the idea of more viewer interaction for series 2, which has been advertised. Treyguard says it's going more strategic rather than less. So that's interesting. It sounds like it might ruin its simplicity, says Aaron. So interesting.
I think for viewer interactivity, or however they phrased it, in the first series, it was definitely like the sillier tasks, or send your photo in and then they're going to rate it against each other's faces and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't consequential to gameplay or who was doing well and who wasn't. But this definitely, like, it's been phrased so vaguely too, that is it going to be a public vote entirely the way that it was on, conveniently enough, the Circle app, which you had to download to make sure that Kate/Alex was deserving of the win after going through so many weeks, XYZ. I don't know. I like to see what is interactive with the audience and what isn't.
All right. Well, it's certainly an interesting, brave show. So let's see what they do with it next time. Number 4.
Number 4 is probably 12 Yards' best show in years. It's I'll Get This.
Ah, okay.
No one watched it, but people voted for it here anyway. So
So, I think as I've said in some of our previous podcasts, I really, really liked the idea of this when I saw it being trailed, and it just had one game slightly too many in it because there was just some nice moments in it when someone would say something like, "Is this the weirdest dinner party you've ever been to?" And then suddenly it would just skip forward to the next game, and you just want to go, "Stop, stop, stop!" There must have been some really good juicy stuff coming out of that. The idea of like celebrities getting slightly drunk and swapping stories was a really good one. But
Sorry, go on ahead.
No, I'm finished.
Oh, it definitely felt like Graham Norton's like sofa with the format, kind of like it captured that essence of let's get drunk, get a little bit chatty, and cross the boundary of people who don't normally see each other necessarily, or that we don't viewers don't see together anyway.
It is one thing that occurred to me was that the mixtures of guests was really unusual in quite a lot of the episodes. It was good, quite like that.
It was obviously inspired by that Alan Davis round a pub table, as yet untitled show.
Yeah.
It's like an upmarket version of that. I do wonder whether it might have been better if there was a regular host like Graham Norton or someone like that to sort of be at least the anchor to sort of go, well, if you like this host, you'll turn out for him, her, then the other, you don't matter. It doesn't matter so much about the other guests, even though they would tend to be.
And they could be paying the host's dinner as well, for example.
So buy Graham Norton's dinner. That could be the title.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a really near miss. I really, really liked the idea of it. I thought it was a really fun idea.
I like the idea of competitive come dine with me, essentially, but I was left a little underwhelmed.
Yeah. Oh well.
Feels I've come on YouTube. Feels like fun to do in real life in the restaurant. Yeah, it probably does. I mean, credit card roulette's not a new thing. Sort of gamblers, sort of hardcore gamblers, do it quite often. Or put a credit card, but whatever loses the game pays all the bills. So it's not a new thing by any means. This is a new way of doing it, I suppose, for television. So yeah.
All right, number 3.
It's actually a joint second.
No, I want a number 3.
All right.
Right, okay, let's do it one by one. First one is
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh no!
I know a lot of people voted. A lot of people didn't voted for it in the Golden Five, but not in the Hall of Fame. Perhaps not realizing that our rule is if it's a revival, it counts as effectively a new show. But yeah, Millionaire of Clarkson. People seem to quite like Clarkson. The first series was a bit rough around the edges. I think Clarkson saved it, but it looks like they've put a lot of things right for the second series.
Yeah.
I just get the feeling that maybe the producers just took a lot more personal interest in the questions, and I don't know. There seemed to be. I mean, I still think that on the whole, it was a tiny bit on the easy side. I remember like the 16 and 32K questions in the past tending to be much more lifeline eaters, whereas things like for example, the Dismaland question about Banksy, 32K. I mean, like it. You could argue that whether it's 8 or 16, but 32 felt a bit. But at least people were winning money, and it felt like it was a good show to be on. All of a sudden, it's like it felt like, hey, this is a generous show giving out lots of money, and that's always what Millionaire was supposed to be about.
Exactly.
I mean, you say those series in the first series, those weird questions at like £4,000 are like really, really hard. It was one on vitamins or something, I remember correctly.
Yes, so this was the very first show in the new series, and there was a badly pitched question. It was way harder than the £4,000 that it was on, and I think they had to use they used loads of lifelines on it. But what David said is absolutely right. It feels like, hey, people are winning money. This is a better show to be on now.
I think the floating net safety net is a good idea. I was implemented quite well. I mean, Arsenal host is obviously useless, but evidently they get their viral moments from it.
Jeremy
So,
knew
Yeah.
a couple in the series that we've just had this January. He actually knew a couple, so there we go.
so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I still think it's a slightly odd mix of old music, medium graphics, new sets, new host. I mean, it's sort of
Terrible font.
yeah, the font's a bit better fixed. I do think the contestant reveal when they show who's got the right answers is still a bit slow and a bit weird. But anyway,
Yeah, he's not the best at the reveals and the tension, but he's good at everything else. The reveals.
Yes, he's right. Actually, reveals he's not great at. No.
No, so it's a little bit grating, but he gets away with it because he's good the rest of the time.
okay, well, it's sort of on the up, and it's good to see. Okay, so the other second equals is.
And I know there's someone currently commenting on the YouTube chat. So very happy about this. It's all together now.
Oh.
Which is winning all sorts of awards for being the fastest selling format around the world. I think they're selling it pretty much one territory a month. And a German version's coming up this year. That's in production now. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of singing shows, but I do quite like this one. I wouldn't tune in to watch it, but certainly think it's done competently, and there's some nice moments in it.
It's just nice, and it's actually fun to watch as opposed to quite a lot of other singing shows. It's it's quite low stakes, but I like the fact you can see people jump up and you see a score all the time. And it also it's quite entertaining. It's not like must watch, but I'm happy to watch it definitely.
It's
Rob Beckett's quite good. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, it's a nice way to capture a karaoke, but then that kind of goes against it as well. Of there will be bigger numbers for like quote unquote bops, like karaoke smash hits, like things that you want to jump up and get involved in.
But I think that's all right. I think it's all right to have shows with popular songs on it that people actually want to listen to.
But it just kind of becomes, I don't know, from what I've seen of it, there's a bit of a almost disadvantage if you go for like the ballad type songs, but it's still a karaoke song, and you get all of those beats in it.
I did go to a TV. I did go to a TV conference where they showed you clips of all the different versions that they've done so far, and I can't remember what it was. It wasn't "I Will Survive," but I think there was a sort of a real barnstorm disco hit that did always seem to vote very well, no matter where you do it. So I do think song choice is a little bit a part of the format, but I mean, I don't think it breaks the show particularly. But
it's still a very fun watch.
Yeah. Okay. Right. What do we think number one is?
So, what do you think is number one?
And
I'm going to say this won by an absolute landslide.
Oh.
It was not close.
I think we've already talked about it. Or briefly mentioned it.
What, Chase the Case?
Nope.
Last Commanders?
No, it's
No.
when you put your finger on it, you'll know.
Oh, what, The Button?
Yes. Number one by a massive landslide.
All right.
The apparently axed the button.
Yes. Oh, my word. I'm so happy that it's number one.
Yeah.
I very rarely tune into shows these days. I normally catch up on them. But The Button was one I always tried to go and watch. For me, it was fun. I liked getting to know the families. I didn't like the first episode. I will say that. But I thought, I'll give it a go. And then it clicked. Something just, yeah.
I think for me, it was reading about it initially. I couldn't really, again, repeating the pun, I couldn't put my finger on what it really was, but then see it in action. You can easily describe it as like, oh, it's Gogglebox and it's Taskmaster, but like those are two hugely successful formats. So obviously, it makes sense that it works together with Alex Horn as well, which is a nice touch.
Yeah. I didn't really understand the whole kind of Gogglebox element of it in terms of you could hand the money back and try again next week. I mean, I just thought, well, surely families are just going to take the 10K and then well, no, take whatever they won and then that's it. But it was only until I think it was this was it did it have eight shows and then that's like the seventh show. There was just like a really nice moment in it when the kids were sort of they'd won actually quite a lot of money, but they were very upset that the button wouldn't be in their living room next week.
Yeah.
And you just thought, oh, it's the fact that you value being on the show more than potentially winning whatever it was, £14,000. That's really something quite special. And
although it was funny when you can see people clearly getting really annoyed at still being on the show.
and also it was a redemption story because wasn't it the Mohammeds had been like really useless for about 6 shows, and then all of a sudden they
won.
They just suddenly won.
Yeah, it's a really sweet, fun, warm show, and it's just everything that's happy in the world. I have so much love for the show. And
everything that's happy in the world has been axed.
Well, apparently, I don't know if we're 100% sure, but apparently the edit did go on quite a long time, and that caused a few cost issues apparently. But you know, who knows? If it's maybe this is the impetus for BBC One to revisit this decision and realize what a special show they've got. I mean, I do think if they just had one extra slightly bigger task in each show, it would have helped because there were maybe slightly too many kind of find the letter E in a dictionary type tasks that were over a little bit quick for my liking, and but it was a good starting point, and it's annoying that it would be really annoying that if the number one show would get axed straight away. I have to say, I don't think the scheduling helped it.
Yeah.
It was always designed as a midweek half-hour show, so apparently they're after that sort of thing.
Yeah, but it got put up on Fridays, didn't it?
On Friday nights, yeah. Apparently, for it repeats, late night repeats, getting almost as many viewers as the actual first broadcast. Sort of 11 o'clock at night. So,
right,
you know,
okay,
yeah,
right. Given in some ways it was Taskmaster light, and with families, the tasks weren't bad. Yeah, I think maybe a slight tweak to one extra bigger one. I always enjoyed the last ones where they had to inflate all these things in their room or deflate them or whatever. That was always great fun. So, so 2 of them in the show. Good. But they weren't bad tasks. They were quite intelligent and witty, and Alex Horn as the button was a triumph as well. He was incredibly witty.
Well, yeah, I didn't like the fact that he was basically edited on afterwards, which sort of slightly took away from the live feel of it somehow.
Some of it was, some of it wasn't, I think. There were a couple of times when they reacted to something that he would have said.
Yeah, but that was still somebody else, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
magic of television ruined for everybody. Watching along at home.
Yep, that's my job. Okay, we are going into some fresh meat now with our online 5 for the best show that's been downloaded onto your telebox or computer from other means. So this is a bit of an experimental category. Not sure if it's going to return next time, but let's see what you've said this year.
So this is you didn't actually vote for this at all. I mean, we have a top 5. Other shows that didn't quite enough votes to get there was Busted on Netflix, Citation Needed, Tom Scott, The Fix on Netflix, Bogglebots, Cash Show, Fiasco Noughts, Hayward the Riddle, Knockout Trivia, Those Things I Fish, Q Live, Game Show Gauntlet, and my personal favourite, What Board Game is this song about? Which sounds like a great show. I've not actually watched, but we'll actually look into it. So, Joint third.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Ultimate Beastmaster,
Oh, okay, yeah.
HQ, and Bobber's Bar Game Night. Shucks, you guys.
Sorry, HQ Trivia is that?
HQ
Yeah.
Trivia, yeah.
Yeah, and
Ultimate Beastmaster, Bobber's Bar Game Night. Yep.
well, they've pretty much all got the same rough budget, so it's,
I think Ultimate Beastmaster's got pretty high budget actually, but
no, that
yeah.
was a joke. Yeah, never mind.
Oh, sorry.
I will say, is HQ Trivia on the outs? Because
Well, I've been thinking that for a while. I've never been
Yep.
massively into the whole live cash show thing. It doesn't seem to have much of a buzz about it, nearly much as it used to, certainly.
I think
So-
losing all the time is not fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, effectively, it's like everybody's equal writ large. The UK show, I
Yeah.
believe, has stopped. Has it?
Oh, has
And
it?
I think, and they're trying to go onto like a words format now,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's trying to reinvent itself, but it's always been a tricky area. This sort of interactive stuff. You know, I remember from the 1980s when there was this sort of feature of the news about this thing called two-way television, where you'd have a special box that would attach to your phone line, and then when you watch Telly Addicts, these questions would pop up on your screen, and you'd be able to press a button and play along live. And it's always been a thing that just shouting at the screen has often been
It's
the primary
always felt like work, and that's not what you want when you're watching telly. So you know, where's the red button these days? Does any show actually use the red button these days?
No,
I think
so.
I think In It to Win It was the last show to use it properly.
Yeah, it was. All right, number 2.
Number 2 is Fingers on Buzzers.
Which is the quiz-based podcast by Jenny Ryan, Chaser, and Lucy Porter, comedian. It is,
Nice.
Given that Lewis isn't able to do 50-50 anymore, it's nice that there's a proper UK-based quiz podcast, and it's very well produced. Lots of care has gone into it with a proper producer and everything. And
I'm fascinated to see if it comes back. I'm assuming it's coming back. What they do for quiz discussion, because I think what other things are there to discuss now in the quiz world?
Well, there's always all different shows. There's always new shows coming up. There's different people to talk to, and there's always different quiz categories and things like that. I don't think there's a danger of different stuff to talk about. So, particularly as they seem to be a relatively all-encompassing thing, looking forward and backwards. You know, you got the entire range of past shows to talk about, and everybody who's ever been on a game show has got their own sort of story about what happened when I went on Bullseye and stuff like that. So you know, I think there's still a big well of stuff to talk about, and they haven't talked to me yet. So
I was going to say, the interview you get.
You know, there's like
I've talked to our friend Mike.
there's a 3-part special just in that, surely. Right. So while I await my invitation for that in the post, which number 1?
Number 1, unbelievable toadying from our voters. It's Lateral.
Hooray!
Oh,
Which was a show that I did with Tom Scott on Tinternet, which if you go to Tom Scott's channel, search for Tom Scott Natural, you will find that. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I'd like to thank my mum, the Academy. Well, there we are. I've never doubted that these are fine people that are voting for these shows.
Shame about the end game.
Well, I'll slightly tweak it, but I don't think it was that broken. But well. Is that it? That's all we're going to say about that?
Yeah, I liked it. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
So I didn't think much of the end game, but I thought the rest of it was pretty good.
Okay.
I like the questions.
the questions were, how long did it take you to write them?
Well, to be honest, 15 years. Because
So we expect a second series in 2032. 2033.
because I used to have a column in the Metro newspaper, and whenever I read sort of funny little stories that you could work out, I would have a words, numbers, logic, visual, and lateral was one of the categories I would have in the paper. So all of my little sort of stories like that would go in there. So I just went back through my back catalogue of things like that, and that was a bulk of the writing. So yes, if it comes to series 2, we'll perhaps need a little help digging for stuff like that. We don't know exactly what we're going to do with series 2 just yet. We have had some official interest, but we're still trying to work out what to do about that. If that doesn't turn out to anything, we will probably try and do a second series under our own steam. But we're hoping that we can do something a bit more official. I shall leave it there. So let's have a look at what you've been saying in the poll. So if I can find the correct oh yeah, it would help if I had the separate tab, wouldn't it? And then I'll be able to share the right thing. There we go.
Ooh.
Is that coming up okay?
Yep.
Okay, so let me just move that to. Oh, you've lost it now, haven't you? Because I've moved that. Yeah, there we go. Sorry. So, was 2018 better or worse for game shows? Yeah, I'm not entirely surprised that people think on the whole it's been slightly worse. I do think there's been some interesting gambits. I mean, like the circle was interesting. I'll Get This was interesting. Button was interesting. I still think there's a lot of creativity there, but not many of these hits are landing, and certainly not selling abroad. So it's okay. Which channel or broadcaster has made the game show you've enjoyed the most? And by far, BBC Two is your favourite channel, followed by Dave's. Dave's still doing very well, presumably because of the Beat the Internet with John Robbins vote. He jests.
Yeah, in fairness, that it came. The Internet came 13th in the Hall of Fame, so some people voted for it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the rounds of it were pretty decent on the whole. It's just a shame it was done a little bit overarched. Last year, over 60 new game show formats emerged in the UK market. Is that too many? I did have a quick look back, sort of over the last 10 years. It does seem that amount is relatively steady over the years. I in my head, I thought, well, I mean, obviously before digital became massive, there was probably only one a month in the early days of UK game shows. Gosh, I would remember updating manually, probably once a month, a new page, whenever something new came on, and now it's just crazy, and there might be 10 new shows a month, and I just can't do it all myself. So interesting that most people think that that's actually about right, or if anything, that they want more shows, and the minority think that that's too many. I do think it's slightly too many for me to keep up with, and I do wish that maybe there was slightly more care going into slightly more formats, fewer formats, personally. But that's what you think. What is the best ever game show gimmick? And most of you going for Crystal Dome, also votes for the Vortex, the Pointless Tower, which nobody still believes is that water thing in Shepherd's Bush. I promise you it is. And the Black Chair Masterminds have voted quite well as well. In the current video-on-demand market, which show would you most like to see made into a pan-territory version? So The Mole
Oh yes.
is by far
With
the
Rick
biggest.
Edwards.
And I heard rumors that may be happening on possibly Facebook.
Yes, I think I heard that as well.
So let's watch that space on that. Followed by Krypton Factor, interesting, and Unhunted and
Oh.
Jeopardy.
A global version of Hunted. Could you
Wow.
imagine?
Yeah.
Hey, we're in Africa.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck
Yeah.
finding us in there.
Yeah.
If you were a commissioner, which long-running show would you most like to cancel? And that vote is split between Eggheads, a Bargain Hunt. Okay.
No.
Who's attacking Bargain Hunt? Who has it in for antiques? Come on, guys.
Where those are the two sort of student staples, aren't they? So somebody's got it in for
Yeah.
uni students, I think. Yeah. Okay. That's what you said about that. Also, X Factor and I'm a Celeb. Interesting.
X Factor's contracted for another 2 or 3 years, though, isn't it?
Yeah, which I think is an interesting decision.
It's going to.
I'm a Celeb, which is its best year in years. So
yeah,
it's happening to one.
Yeah, surely. What do you think is the most important factor that makes a show a success? And basically, no one has an idea. So we'll just leave that there. Apart from to say, well-written questions is number one. Listen there, producers. Listen there. And this is interesting. Out of the FANG services, I don't know why it's FANG because Google is actually YouTube, so it really should be Fanny. What's wrong with Fanny? On which of the FANG services do you spend significant amounts of time watching game type shows? Then I think that is quite interesting. That everyone that orders lots of stuff on Amazon gets it for the free postage, but actually doesn't bother watching anything on it.
Yeah.
I think I watch some stuff on Facebook incidentally because I'm flicking through, but I don't choose to watch stuff.
Yeah.
Netflix, personally, they're commissioning some nice stuff, or they're buying quite wisely. But even like a really, really nice show like Idiot Test, which is one of my favorite shows ever. The thing is, I've already watched kind of series 1 on YouTube. I want like the series that's just gone out on GSN, but they don't commission that one. They don't give you the rights to that one. They give you the rights to the old stuff. So it's a bit frustrating. They're getting the right shows, but not the exact episodes that I want to watch.
That's the issue with possibly shows like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune. I do have one question about the Google YouTube, such a high figure. Do they tend to watch clips or entire episodes? My bet says it's going to be clips.
Yeah, well, I did say more than 10 minutes a week, so that's quite a low bar.
Indeed.
But nevertheless, I always think with stuff like Jeopardy, it's a bit like I'd rather do today's crossword because I just know it's new and fresh and minty and correct.
Yes.
And I don't really want to do a 2-year-old crossword. So I don't know. It's like I again, if that was available on Netflix as like live, as like here's today's episode, I definitely would watch it. There we are. Any other comments on that? You?
No,
Okay, and then finally, the Hidden Gem Award. Which of the new minor shows do you think deserves special recognition? It's always a bit of a tricky sort of line to draw in terms of where do you think what counts as a major show that's in line for the golden, not Golden 5, the Best New Show Award, and what do you think is a niche show that's not likely to get any interest? But with 37.9% of the votes, Take the Tower is your winner, which I, for one, am very happy with.
Yeah, if I had 3 more challenges I could rotate into, it'd been brilliant. But as it was a really good stab, especially for the channel, the audience. Blimey, ITV4, that's like a budget of 0.
And interesting, Beat the Internet came second, so there were still some fans for that.
Just to continue, the Lupin one, shocked by it now was up for nomination. Yes, actually, by it now it came 11th, joint 11th, just outside the top 10. And I thought that probably deserves slightly higher, but there you go.
Did you just say up for nomination or something like that?
Well, yeah, in this case, it was logically correct.
Right. Okay. Just checking.
So it's fine.
Right, so we come to arguably the climax of the evening, which is Golden Five, which is your favourite show, regardless of when it's been broadcast, as long as a new, that's just whatever's going on.
First run broadcast last year.
Yeah, as long as there's been new episodes, it can be an old format.
Yeah.
And there was a change of the guard last year with the chase finally winning its own little chase to the top of the leaderboard. So, do we think there will be any...
interesting? I will say there are a lot of people in their ballots who deliberately decide not to vote for the chase or pointless because they're fed up with them being on top.
Wow.
So who knows? Well, I know, but who knows?
I still think that the chase is going to do better than pointless. I just feel like it's aging a bit better.
I think Taskmaster's maybe going to go up one step.
I would like Taskmaster to go up. Yeah.
Other than that, still think it may be the same 5, but let's see. Okay. Right. So, do you want to quickly do 10 to 6?
Okay. 10 Crystal Maze, 9 Tipping Point, 8 Tenable, 7 Richard Osman's House of Games, 6 Pointless.
Oh!
Wow.
So 2 have fallen out of the top 5.
Mm.
Which Tenable was 4th, wasn't it? So
I shall be wearing black in morning.
In 5th place, it was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh, well, there's a lot of love for it. That's good.
That's fair, yeah.
I'm not doing the font again.
Live and learn.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough.
4 is Taskmaster.
Fair. I'm glad it's still there.
Okay. Right.
Number 3, Impossible.
Yay.
Okay, last year's winner. Right.
Yeah, it was number 6 on the Golden 5 last year, so it's jumped up quite a lot this year. Number 2, The Chase.
Oh,
okay.
Which means number 1 is Ready or Not. No, it's only Connect.
Yay.
Okay.
It's interesting how Only Connect seems to have avoided this all on board of it being the top 5 thing. Number 1, I can't say I've watched very much of this last year, to be honest, but evidently still very popular amongst our game show cognoscenti who have voted. So
it manages to be funny. There aren't that many quiz shows that I would say are truly funny, and yet this I would say was. Like Taskmaster's not a quiz. I'd say it's a game show. It's not a quiz. The Chase, it's a quiz show, and it's amusing, but it's not funny. I think Only Connect is funny. Take last week's episode, for example, where they changed the credits and had a lion tamer in the credits, and then there was a lion tamering afterwards. It's little things. It's little things. The 300th episode is coming up later this year, which should certainly be
Blimey, 300th.
I have a badge and everything because I was there on the day, and Victoria gets into the swing of things. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I thought the Tarzan route was a bad idea, but apparently it went okay.
So I think there we go, 6 episodes of questions, David. It's done quite well for itself, really.
It's somehow managed to survive without me. Okay, well, that's very interesting that there's been a bit of a revert. So congratulations to the OC. That's it for today. Because Only Connect is our winner, that means that Victoria Carmichael is the game show Prime Minister of the UK for this year.
We would have her as the actual Prime Minister.
Just out of interest, David, how many of those did you have prepared?
A few. I mean, like, yeah. If it had been something really quite random, then I would have been in trouble. But there we are. So that's it. Now we usually have some extras after the broadcast. So if you want to see the comments that people sent in as part of the vote, then that will be published on UK Game Shows. And
about 10 minutes after this broadcast finishes, it'll be straight up there.
Yeah. And there's usually some sort of extras below the line on Nick's Bothers Bar website as well. So thank you very much indeed for watching, for voting, for taking part. Hope you've enjoyed listening to the results, that you agree with the results, and if you don't agree with them, remember, it's your fault. So thank you for joining us, Dan Peake.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for her lovely debut performance, Laura Conlon.
Thank you for having me.
And once again, huge thanks to Nick Gates for organising all the counting up.
Yep, no problem. Thanks very much.
And from me, David Bodicum, thanks very much indeed for everything and for making Lateral your favourite online game show. So hope you enjoy reading all the comments, and that you will join us again roughly at the same time next year. Do join us on UKGameshows.com and bothersbar.co.uk for all of your game show needs. That's it from us. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.